parent function right here, it is on the test. Y is equal to x. Its graph looks like this right here.
So it's just straight through the origin.
Yep, goes straight through the origin and it has a slope of 1. It's super boring. Okay, it's boring, it's plain. It's very basic. Okay, it's the most simple line ever. Alright, so that's the parent function. We compare all other linear or all other lines to the parent function to describe how it has changed. Okay, so moving on down. So the first linear transformation that we're going to talk about, or first parameter change, is f of x plus k.
Didn't we do this?
No.
No, it looks like the other thing.
It looks like functions. Remember, f of x, just another way to say y. And you'll kind of see what we're doing with this. So if I have the parent function f of x is equal to x, okay, and then I've got my new line, which I'm going to call g of x, and that new line is x plus 3. You'll be okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put this into my calculator and see how it changes the line. Ignore all that. Okay, so I'm going to put the parent function right here, y is equal to x. And then I'm going to put the other function right here, x plus 3. Then I'm going to graph that. All right, so there's my parent function, and there's my new function. What does it look like the line did?
It got a slope and a y intercept?
It has the slope changed?
No.
No, but it has moved up. Okay, it has moved up. Guess how many it's moved up?
3.
3. Oh, imagine that. All right, now I'm going to try to draw a decent line. Okay, close enough. So that is my new line. It was moved up 3. Guys, focus, please. Okay, so now I've got a new one, or a new equation. We're going to figure out what this is going to do. H of x is equal to x minus 3. What do you think is going to happen to the graph?
It's going to go down 3.
It's going to go down 3. Let's double check with our calculators. Okay, there's our new line. Oh, imagine that. It did go down 3. There is our new line. Okay. So the result of these parameter changes is that g of x went up 3 and h of x went down 3.
What about f of x? Do we have to do that one or no?
This is the parent function.
No, I did that.
Okay, so this is called a vertical translation. Which just means we're moving it up and down. Okay, so up and down. If it is a positive y-intercept, you are moving it up. If the y-intercept is negative, it moves down. It's that simple. That's it. Okay? Alright, moving on down. Okay, this next one, we're not going to see a lot of it, so we're going to breeze through this. Yes?
This is totally off topic, but can we turn our homework in?
Yes, but not during notes. Wait until the end. Alright, so this one right here, f of x plus h Okay, you are not going to see it this unit. This is going to be more with quadratics, and I don't feel the need to really touch on that quite yet. But this is a horizontal translation. Okay, it moves it left to right. And all I'm going to tell you right now is that if it is positive, it moves left. And if it's negative, it moves right. And again, you will not see this on the test. Okay, I've already gone through it. But I want you to have this minimal information just so that you can have it in the back of your brain for whenever we talk about quadratics next semester. Okay? Whoa. All right. Moving on over, this next one is a reflection. That would be the parameter change. Nope, it is not hard, I promise. Okay, our parent function is f of x is equal to x. I'm going to go ahead and graph that. Nope, we're not even doing that. All we're talking about is a reflection. Okay, our new line would be g of x is equal to negative x. Okay?
I'm so confused. Wait, what? Did you just add another point, or?
G of x is equal to negative x.
So you just did the opposite, which is the reflection.
Yep, it's going to look like this. All it means is that it has a negative slope. If it has a negative slope, it is being reflected. If it does not, it's not being reflected. That's it. Okay?
Why G? Are we just going through the alphabet?
That's just typically what you do.
Oh, okay.
All right, so the result is that g of x is reflected across the y-axis. Okay, the bottom line is that if it has a negative slope, oh, put up your phone. I see that. Put up your phone. Okay? If it has a negative slope, it's reflected. If it has a positive slope, it's not reflected. That's it. Okay? It is not difficult. All you have to do is say, okay, it has a negative slope, it's being reflected. Or it has a positive slope, it is not being reflected. Okay? That's it. Oh, I should probably label that. Okay? So that's reflection. Easy peasy.
Wait. Go back up.
Okay, this next one is our last type of parameter change that we're going to see. A of f of x. All that means is changing the slope. So we have our parent function, f of x is equal to x. All right. And then we've got our next equation. We're going to call it g of x is equal to 3x. We're going to look at how this will affect it. Okay? So I'm going to look at the graphs of both of these. Remember, I'm always going to compare it to the parent function, so I'm going to leave that in there. 3x. Okay, there goes my parent function. And here is my new equation right here. How does it look different? No. How does this graph look different? Colton, you need to move up if you can't see. Okay, so right here, what's different? Does it have a different slope?
Yes.
Yes. Does it have a different y-intercept?
Yes.
No.
No. This has the same y-intercept.
Okay, so what's a way that I could describe this new line?
One's going through the origin. Wait.
Specifically talking about the slope. Okay, we're going to use the word steep. Try and use the word steep. and describe the slope. What do you think?
One steeper than the other.
Yep. It becomes more steep. All right, guys, be quiet. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and draw that on here. There's G. It became more steep. Now, if I have h of x, and it was 1/2 x, how do you think the line would compare? Do you think it's going to be more steep or less steep?
Less steep.
Okay, so let's see if that's true. Oh, look at that. So were you right?
Yes.
Yes, it is less steep. I'm going to go ahead and graph that one as well. I'm going to give you guys a second to get caught up. All right. So the result. Okay, g of x got more steep. Or got steeper. Let's say steeper. Okay, steeper is the word that you are going to see in the test. Okay, we're going to use steep to talk about the changing the slope. All right, h of x got less steep. And remember, that's compared to the parent function. Compared to the parent function, g of x got steeper, h of x got less steep. All right, and the way that you can tell is if the absolute value of the slope is greater than 1. Okay, all that means is that if the slope is not a fraction, okay, if it's a whole number, then it's going to get steeper. Okay, does that make sense? Anyone confused? I had some students who were earlier. Okay? Or if the absolute value of the slope is in between 0 and 1, all that means is that it is a fraction. Okay, positive or negative. If it's a fraction, it's going to become less steep. That's how you can tell the difference.
That makes sense.
Okay, good. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to do an example. Alright, so if I have g of x, which is equal to negative 3x plus 2, there's going to be 3 things that are changing. Do I have a negative slope?
Yes.
Yes, so what does that mean?
It's gonna be steep.
No, that negative slope, that's up here.
Oh, it's gonna be reflected across the axis.
It is reflected. All I'm going to write is reflected. Okay, it's being reflected because it has a negative slope. Now look at that slope. Negative sign or not, do you think it's going to make it steeper or less steep?
Less steep. Steeper.
It's a whole number.
Oh.
So it's going to make it steeper.
Duh.
Nope. Be nice.
That is true though.
Steeper. Okay. And finally, the y-intercept. Is it going up or down? Up. How many times? 2 times. That's it. Okay? That is it. So what we're going to do now is, in 2 seconds we're going to glue this in, but I want to take the notes in our journal before we do that. So go ahead and fold this in half and set it aside. Alright guys, okay, I didn't say fold it in half and chat with your friends. I said just fold it in half. Okay, open up your journals. You need to be ready to take notes in like 2 seconds. If you don't have your journal out, I'm not sure why. We need it every day. Every day. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start writing, and I need you to stop talking. Okay, I'm going to make a checklist. I'm going to glue this in over here later. We will glue it in later. Don't do it right now. Over here, to make it a little bit easier for you, I'm going to give you a checklist to check for those parameter changes. All right, so this is our parameter changes checklist. Okay, parameter changes checklist, and today is the 23rd. All right. So, the first thing to check for is it being reflected? Okay. Another way to say that question is the slope negative? Okay, so either yes or no, okay? And then we would look at the slope. Okay, so that's the number in front of x. Whenever we're looking at the slope, there's 3 options. It can become steeper, which that means that the absolute value of the slope is greater than 1. Okay, it's a whole number. Well, I guess it could be 2.5. The point is that it's not a fraction, okay? It could become less steep. That means that the absolute value of the slope is in between 0 and 1, or it's a fraction. Okay? Or the slope could not change. Which would mean that the slope is equal to 1. Remember, all of these are in comparison to the parent function. Okay, we're comparing all of these to the parent function. All right, and then we would look at the y-intercept. Okay, and there's 3 options for that. Okay, it can go up some amount, and that's if we have a positive y-intercept. It could go down some amount, and that would be if we have a negative slope. Or it could not change. Because it has a 0 y-intercept. Okay. So what I'm going to do is we're going to work several example problems. I'm going to write on this side of my paper. If you want to, you can as well. If you want to write it somewhere else, that's fine. I'm going to do a couple examples with you so you can see how we use this, and then I'm going to release y'all to work on your own. Alright, so right here I've got g of x is equal to negative 1/3 x minus 1. There are going to be 3 things that I'm going to write down. And this is how you're going to use the checklist. Okay? You're going to go through and say, is it being reflected? What does that mean? Oh, is the slope negative? In this case, yes it is. So I'm going to write reflected. Okay, now I'm going to look at the slope. Okay, is it getting steeper? That means that, oh,
Because it's a fraction.
It's a fraction, so that means that it's getting less steep. Okay, and then I'm going to look at the y-intercept. I'm going to say, do I have a positive or negative y-intercept? Oh, it's negative. That means it's going down. How many is it going down by? Oh, it's just the number right there, 1. That's it. Okay, that's all you're doing. All right, so you can graph it, but you don't have to.
On the test, will we have to graph it?
You shouldn't have to, no. Okay, let's do another one. Okay, so for this one, let's see. There's 3 things. Again, I'm going to go through my checklist because I do use the checklist every time. Is it being reflected? Let's see. Is my slope negative? Yes, it is. Okay, my slope, let's see. Is it a fraction? No. It's also not equal to 1, so it's going to become steeper. I also could put these into my calculator to figure this out as well. Okay? Make sure you put in the parent function as well so you can compare it. Steeper.
It's gonna go up 4 too.
Yes. Okay, I see I've got a positive y-intercept, so it's going to go up 4.
Can we do one more?
Sure. All right, so I'm looking at this. Is it being reflected?
No.
No. Okay, so I'm not going to write that down. I don't have to write it. All I'm doing is comparing the differences. If it's not different, don't write it down. All right, the slope.
It's getting steeper.
It's getting steeper because it's not a fraction where the absolute value is greater than 1. Okay? So yes, it's getting steeper. And oh look, I've got a negative y-intercept, which means it's going down 3. All right, so you should have these 3 examples over here. I'm going to write a ridiculous amount of problems. I'm going to do so quickly. As I write them down, I want you to be working them. Each bullet point represents a change. So if there's just one bullet point, that means there's only one thing that's changing. Okay? So,
Do we have to write them down?
yep, they should go in your journal. I will zoom in 2 seconds, don't worry. Well, actually, I can zoom in right now, I guess. All right, that is all of them. Go ahead and start working these, and go ahead and glue this paper. Sorry, I'll move it back. Glue this paper
Whoa.
in there. Yep.